Well, hello, everybody. Welcome in. Welcome to another episode of Exploring the Indigo Frequency. I'm Lisa Gunshore. I'm my co-host this way.
Hello, Lisa. I'm so excited to be doing this today. As soon as you start talking, I get all giggly and excited. Yeah.
Oh, I love it so much. And wow, hi, guys. This is the first time I am no longer on YouTube. I am on YouTube on Denise's channel. So hello to everybody out there. But I am actually streaming live in the Buddhist Biohacker portal. And I see so many of you guys commenting already. So hi, Tracy. Hi, Karen. Hi, Carolyn. Everybody's saying hi. Welcome in. And as always, we love comments on our show. We love questions. We love to hear how you're relating to the indigo. And we have another jam-packed show, a lot to talk about. So I'd love to know how everybody's feeling out there, because we're going to talk about that. So Denise, where do you want to start?
I think it is jam-packed. I started laughing because I send you these outlines and you get them and you go, yeah, we're never going to get through even half of this. And I'm like, well, it's just sort of just in case we find more to talk about. Where I want to start is the idea that in episode 1 and 2, we talked about what is some of the symptoms? What does it look like? What are the characteristics of being an indigo? So today what I want to do is present the concept that all of those are true. And as we are dealing with solar flares, as we are dealing with global conflicts, as we are dealing with national conflicts, as we are dealing with artificial or manufactured financial shortages, and all of these things, what we're noticing is those parts of us are getting bigger. So today, this week, June 15th, 2022 is the time to say we're peaking on these things that we've been carrying within our systems, within our bodies for decades. And it is time to sort of realize that if we don't do something about them, they're controlling us, our reactions, our agitations, our hypervigilance, the skill sets that we have. It's time to sort of look at them as far as what does it look like when you're in balance with those, and what does it look like when you're out of balance with those, and to address it head on right now.
Yeah, absolutely. And I am just, you guys are throwing in these comments here. So hi to Kate Wind. We love Kate Wind. She's like our official astrologer. And Carolyn is saying all this information has been so amazing. And Tracy is saying she's feeling major transformation. And I know we talked about this today. We talked about this week. We talked about it today before we went live. But even just hearing you say it again, this feels really big, because I think, and I know that so many of us in the community are feeling, we're feeling this change. We're feeling the change not only in our gifts and how we're receiving. I could go on and on about what's happened with my own gifts in the last few weeks, but I think a lot of us are actually making real changes around our work, our mission, our life, what we're doing, how we're taking care of ourselves. And I think it goes hand in hand with what we're talking about, which is the gifts are changing, what we're bringing in is changing, how we stay balanced is changing, and where we're headed is changing.
Exactly. And, I'm a scanner. So the way I've fed myself since I was in middle school was I like public places. I like malls. I like beaches. I like, coffee shops where I can sort of watch and I start to calibrate or to assess and calibrate the moods, the tensions, the reactions. And whether it's a small town or a large city, they duplicate each other in their patterning. So when I'm scanning, the YouTube, the Rumble, the Telegram, the all of the places where I'm going to find information, what I'm noticing is that all of the presenters are sort of sitting a little bit more on their chair going like, we're in something right now. We're in it. Like we thought maybe 6 months ago, a year ago, a year and a half ago, that we were starting on a path that this is going to be exciting. Something's going to happen. But now they're kind of like, and they're agitated. They're like, we're in it. We're in it right now. We can't even tell you what it is because we don't know, but we can feel it. And there's some heavy duty activation, some heavy duty triggers. And the terminology that or the imagery that I used with a client earlier today is that it's almost as if we had a protected seal around us, whether it's a bubble or like a plastic sheath that was all the way around us that somebody just popped off, right? And all of our stuff that was so easily contained, or what we thought we were containing, is now exposed and moving around and expanded and unsafe and triggered, and yet free and glorious and beautiful. So it's like we've popped into something and we don't know what it is yet.
Yeah, and I've experienced that too, just with my own gifts, as a medium. And even the prophetic dreams, like my dream state. But I'm having experiences that I would say were rare, if not ever happened to me in my life. And at 43, I'm like, oh, there's like a whole new thing happening. And like you said, it is really beautiful. It's like this really beautiful, cool thing. And at the same time, it's like unnerving, because it's like, whoa, this is different. Like, they talk about like the veil thinning or going away and all these things. And I think, maybe the veil wasn't really ever there. Maybe we created the veil. And it feels like something is absolutely dissolved at this time. Like there is definitely something different, and we're able to see and experience things somehow different. And maybe it's just our frequency,
Our frequency is busting out. We are changing from a closed loop system to an open loop system. There's a sense of removal of the enslavement. So part of what we've been doing is I wrote this book as we were going along, right? I think, I published it April 30th, and we've been talking since January. So we've been working on different chapters or different sections. And so on page 103 in here is a list of the clairs, all of the ways that we clairvoyant, clairaudient, clairsentient, and what I'm noticing is that I used to be able to separate them, like, oh, that's what this is. Oh, that's what this is. Or in rare occasions, two of them are coming in at the same time. Now I feel like I'm wide open and all of them are talking at the same time. So I'm like, wow, this is an altered state that I haven't been in. And I'm looking really seriously at any pain relievers, any drugs, any alcohol, any foods, like what's causing this. And as I'm stripping all of those out, I'm realizing that no, I'm in full open. All of my clairs are highly functioning. So I was sharing this story with you, and I think this is where we want to put this in, because so many of the Gen X population and those of us who love series, and the OA was sort of like came in out of nowhere, and Stranger Things in OA sort of popped us open into some new concepts. And in the OA on Netflix, there was a scene, right, where Prairie meets with this woman, Katan. And Katan knows that she needs something. She's undernourished. She needs food, or she needs something, and she hands her a fish. And when Prairie takes the fish, it turns into a bird, and she has to eat the bird. And so she puts the bird in her mouth and she eats it. And what ends up happening is that vehicle, the fish bird that came from Katan, was a piece of wisdom that was now inside of her. That was the missing movement, the ancient movement that Prairie hadn't found, that they were all practicing this one movement that would change the energy and help them jump dimensions. And I'm like, this is fascinating, because what that means is that there's a time when that piece of information in us starts to open and activate, right? And I thought that was something I wanted us to share, with this crowd, with this group, to be able to say, yes, what if we have this ancient wisdom? Not what if, we do, right?
Yeah.
And then I looked up Khatun, which is it's an Arabic name. It's Turkish Mongolian, and it's in the Middle East, and it is the term used for the female nobility.
Mm.
So it's that wise nobility that sort of hands something through the womb from generation to generation. And I thought, they wove this into a show in 2019. 2016, 2019, they were 3 years, the first and second were 3 years apart. And I thought, this is just amazing. So I've got Danny, Marie, and I've got hello from Live Live Spiritual on hello from Wisconsin. So I've got a couple of comments coming in from mine, and you've got your portal just rolling along.
Yeah, it really is. We have let me just share. So Karen was saying, let's see here. She said, I got to scroll back up here. Okay. So she said, with the veil thinning, I feel like our guides are with us. And she said, last night her doorbell rang. There was no one there, and her cameras picked up nothing. And her mom just passed. And so she said she felt like her mom was trying to say hello. And Tracy says, OA was mind-bendingly awesome. And so was Undone on Amazon. I haven't seen either, so I guess I need to get on that. Have you seen Undone?
I haven't seen Undone. Thank you, Tracy, because now I'm writing that one down. I'm always looking for a new series that will just blow my mind open. So the one that I liked was
like my go-to for movies and things for sure. Good, and Denise says she's saying hello. Also, Denise is Live Life Spiritual Direction, so she's on YouTube.
Got it. Because I don't get to see her name, and I'm like, I didn't put that together. Sorry, Denise. Yeah. So what if we have this magical ancient wisdom in us that's in our DNA that is starting to come to the surface and has been within us since we incarnated? That was the purpose of the indigo, right? It means that we've talked about this in previous episodes, is that we are natural destroyers and dismantlers. And if we don't know that we're doing that, then we have these old conditioned patterns, which is hypervigilance, like things fall apart, things go south, people are mean, people hurt me, people attack me when, and we don't understand why. So what we're doing today is saying that all of those old patterns that we have been developing in order to survive, in order to fit in order to work, with this lifetime, is coming to a head. And that those skills are part of the indigo ancient magic, which is we're starting to dig in deeper into the old lineage, the ancient DNA that's within us, that's our mastery, that we're here to harvest and sort of bring to the surface. So how do we go after these old conditioned patterns and sort of look at what does it really look like when you notice that someone maybe between their 40s and their 50s, or scouts who are in their 60s, right? Or someone who's here on an indigo mission, or someone who's deeply embedded in the Gen X generation, right? They're also so intertwined that it's hard to pull them out, but there's a core set of out of balance patterns that exist within this genre. And so I thought we could go through that list and sort of see how the audience responds to this. And if each of you can sort of go like, oh yeah, and is it up? Like, not just do you have it, but is it up right now? And what are you noticing about that?
Yeah, and there's two I really want to dive into, because I know these are themes because of calls I've had all week with colleagues and those of you that are in the app. We just had our morning cups and we just talked about this. So two that I really want to dive into is, let me pull this up because I just had it in front. Okay, so trying to control our change and wondering what the point is of what we're doing. And I love that you put this word disenchanted. It's like there is absolutely this shattering of the illusion, right? The shattering of the Maya around us. That's like, okay, so if money collapses, if, these systems don't matter, if the, movies I watched, if all I could see is symbolism of things I don't really want to know about, like all of a sudden it's like everything we strove to achieve doesn't matter anymore. And I think that's a really big one, as well as trying to control what this change is going to look like. So those are two big ones I just want to throw out. And I already see Carolyn says, yep, all in caps. And Eve says, Denise, your image has a light pillar coming through your crown chakra from the top of the screen.
That's so cool.
It's so cool. Oh my gosh, I love that. So I want to know how many of you guys out there are disenchanted. Like, what is the point of all of this? Like, why am I here? And the control, those are two big ones, Denise. What are big ones for you besides those? Or do you want to say anything about those?
I want to say something about those first, because the disenchanted, or the, what's the point, and the control, they go hand in hand. Because if we are in reaction, and if we are constantly on guard and adjusting and monitoring and adjusting and trying to fit it in and push and push and push, then it makes sense that when things come to a head, like they are right now, it's like, oh no, I'm so tired. I'm so tired. I've been fighting this, pushing this ball uphill for, in my case, 63 years. And now I've got to get it ready for a big push. And it's kind of like, no, that's why we're talking about this right now. The disenchanted isn't that this is going to take more energy. It isn't going to take more effort from you. It's actually asking us to step back and go, it isn't pointless. Look at what we created. And it's celebratory. So how do we switch from disenchantment to celebration? Because everything that has happened in this world up until this point is a culmination of the arrival of the indigo, with the support of the crystal, with the support of the diamond, and or the rainbow, and now the diamond. So we are now where we need to be. So how do we undo that control, which is like pry each finger off of the, and start to realize maybe I don't have to do that anymore. Okay. The one that I always wanted to talk about is the overactive monkey mind. It's almost as if, what was that? What was that? Oh, and then if I miss something, then why did I miss that? And where did it come from? And I second guess myself. And so it's this monkey mind loop of deep processing, which is a HSP, highly sensitive person overwhelm, plus the not having the knowledge of the clear information and just having things kind of come out of left field and then trying to figure out where they came from. And so this monkey mind, this energy of over information, overstimulation, and trying to solve it all the time means that we are exhausted. So I'm going to put monkey mind and exhaustion together, like you put change and disenchanted. So this exhaustion means that this hypervigilance that we have created as a pattern is aging us rapidly, faster than we need to. It's taxing our nervous system, our glandular system, our immune system. Every single part of us, which we covered in last episode, is being directly weakened by our hypervigilance. And that comes from our mind having to try to stay a step ahead because we can notice things that most people don't. What are your thoughts on that? Or what are we seeing in?
Well, we've got all sorts of comments here. So Denise says, sometimes, yes, feeling impatient for change, scared about it too, and I find myself trying to figure out how to protect myself. Carolyn says, I am moving through disenchantment and have been really connecting back with my ecstasy, and that's helping me. Karen says, yes, information overload is intentional. It keeps us distracted and disconnected from each other. Eve, I love it. Eve says, my mind, and she has every single monkey emoji you could have possible. And,
exactly.
Yeah. And then and Denise also says, sometimes feeling impatient. Oh my gosh. So yeah, there's obviously everybody is resonating with this, and yeah, that, I don't do too bad with the monkey mind these days. I actually have the opposite problem where I've slowed down enough and become present enough that sometimes I'm not quick to I'm not catching things, but I'm not monkeying around with them either. I'm just sort of like in a different space. But definitely the impatience for change, or feeling like, I feel like there's a lot with that control energy. We talked about it yesterday, in preparation for this show. But I think, it reminds me back to the Quantum Feminine conference that we had in January. And this concept of quantum femininity is we create controls because we want to be certain of an outcome. And that's the masculine form of control. And the feminine, and the quantum feminine, is this infinite surrender to not knowing the outcome and trusting in the chaotic order of nature. And that is to me one of the biggest challenges for all of us right now. And even with the virus, it's interesting because the virus is this chaotic natural thing, right? And I mean, wherever it came from may not be natural, but it's this chaotic thing, right? And nature did its own thing with how it was going to manage it and what was going to happen with our bodies and our cellular structures and all those things. And then there's all these controls. The masculine energy is all the control energy, trying to be certain of this outcome. And what we learned, hopefully, from all of that, those of us who are observing all of this, is that you really can't control an outcome.
No.
And I think there's power in that surrender, trust and surrender.
Well, and in order to trust and surrender, we have to, at least for me, this is what helps me, is if we are just now in 2022 really diving into the beauty of the frequency of the indigo and the purpose, and starting to put the pieces together, and we're realizing, oh, this is truth. We get this. This is real. I'm going to go back to, at the time of the seeding, when things started changing really rapidly, those that were targeted, the reason we're here is because of that external control, right? From off planet, from internal, from a lot of different places. They were well aware, and have been, that this frequency was going to change everything. So their purpose was to shut down that frequency. Which means that in order for us to let go of control and surrender, means we're not going to push against this control factor, which is, let's poison food. Let's put fluoride and shut down the pineal gland. Let's make sure their gut system doesn't work. Let's make sure that they're agitated all the time. And so the other one that I wanted to look at is when we're busy mind looping, the monkey mind. Okay. The thing that happens when our mind is always, and think about a parent who is looking at their phone or in their head, and you're trying to get their attention. This was my mother. And I could talk to her, and she would look at me, and she wasn't there. Like, she was in her head thinking, and I had to accelerate my behavior in order to get her attention. And then her reaction was, God damn it, Denise. She was just like startled and mad, right?
Yeah.
So let's take that into the overstimulated monkey mind looping, and the fact that when we are that busy doing that, our ability to surrender or let go of control isn't something we even know. What we know how to do is have people around us, people, places, and things accelerate into causing us reaction to get through that constant preoccupation with the looping. So that's the pattern we want to go after first, which is, if I'm so busy inside trying to figure out what's going on and who am I and how did I get here and how come I feel like this, we're not hearing the subtleties of the divine telling us that, hey, we're okay. How do you step back and surrender? Because those two are in opposite energy fields, and for us to like calm down and relax. I had a beautiful, aggressive, fabulously successful indigo warrior tell me, if you say, let's go play with that one more time. Play ended up being the word that triggered her the most, because she said, I don't think you understand. It's not something I can just put down and be playful about. I'm doing serious work here. And you're like, okay, now I understand. That loop, that pressure is so fast, and it's driven by our culture of consumption or consumer, upgrades of lifestyle, of food, of, think of everything on that we are being guided, directed, forced into participating, keeps us at a very fast pace, so we can't hear or play or surrender. Those two. And so that's our mastery, is that if we find access to our clairs, if we go internal, if we are able to shut out the outside and step off of the busy track, then we are beating the system and we're nourishing ourselves. And now's the time to recognize, where is that pattern within us, and how do we identify it and flip it? That's why we're doing this topic right now.
Yeah. Oh, well, and so first off, Eve is laughing because she said, now we have monkeypox. We're talking about monkey mind. And Denise says, I wrote a blog today about being more present. I'll post it on the app. Definitely, Denise, post that. And so this brings to mind, everything you just said brings to mind for me, this identifying what is mind and what is spirit, what is mind, what is heart. Because we do have, these clear senses and our creativity. And so many people that are watching this right now and listening have spent years developing their gifts and opening their clear senses and trying to connect with their guides and their energy fields. And so it seems to me like the challenge now with what you're saying is, and I've experienced it, is what's coming from my mind and what's really spirit-led, what's coming from my heart. And it's the same thing with the clear senses and what's yours and what's not yours. And I want to share this story. I think it's a good place to insert it. Is, when I was 20 and I was still in culinary school, I remember going to the movies with my sister, and I became incredibly agitated through the movie. Like, I could not focus. I was feeling like anxious and sick, almost like something bad was going to happen. I was really bothered. And of course, my sister is an empath and was like, what is going on? I'm like, oh, I don't know what's going on. Like, this is just awful. Couldn't figure it out. And at the end of the movie, I went to the restroom after the movie was over, and there was a woman in there just crying and crying and crying about her boyfriend. And she had been sitting next to me. And that was a light bulb moment for me. That was the moment I thought, oh, this had nothing to do with me. This was somebody else's stuff I was feeling sitting in that movie theater. And that was really the catalyst to my pursuing the clairvoyant training program and starting to understand how to manage my gifts, and even teaching what I teach now and all the things that I have available, because you do want to go back to that very simple. One of the things they taught us in the Berkeley Psychic Institute is to put up a little gauge, and you just ask 0 to 100, how much of this is me?
Yeah.
And now I'm doing that with how much of this is my mind? Is this my mind thinking that's a cool idea, or is this a spirit-led idea? Is this something that spirit's telling me to do? And so I think it's really important that we remember that we are all psychic and gifted and have these clear senses. And like you said, Denise, they're open, and we're actually using them, and we've been developing them. And now we have to trust our own gifts. And I think that's something that with the surrender and the trust is, are we trusting our own gifts? And are we getting present with ourselves to say, like, is this emotional state I'm in mine? Is it something else outside of me? Am I getting, messages, or is this something different? And really being able to look at that, because I think the becoming present, it's like the first step is becoming aware. And I think that's really where it's at, is like becoming aware in that present moment that something is happening, and surrendering to that and asking the question, where is this really coming from?
It's the only part of us that we can work with, because we have to start with our system first, our human energy system first, before we can deal with anything on the outside. We don't know how to read our system, listen to it, slow it down, speed it up, open it, shut it, then that's where our core skills start. And, for me, I I manipulate. I manipulate everything all the time. It's kind of like, well, that could be this or that could be that. This is this perspective, that perspective. And oh, I've got somebody writing really nasty things on my screen.
Yes, I'll manage that. You keep talking.
Take care of that. I was like, what?
Yeah.
And so what I had to do was realize that my brain will grab and process anything and then play with it and spin it, grab it, play it and spin it. So what I had to do was find a tool to go into my body and go, so who's really talking here? And so for me, I use my yes, no's with my muscle testing, because there are times when I'm like, is this me or is this them? And it's like, is this me? No. Oh, I'm right. Okay. And that validation means that I'm teaching myself over and over again to trust that what I'm hearing or feeling or seeing is real, and then slowing it down and bringing the pace out, because the faster I go, the less I muscle test, the less I think of course I'm present. I'm someone who teaches presence. I know how to do presence. Well, maybe not. Maybe I'm doing that manipulation again, where my mind is saying you're present when my body and my spirit can't talk to me. So what we do is we come back into a place, and the greatest example I can use is in yoga, when you've done this practice for a while, and then the teacher throws a hard one in there and you stop breathing and you hold your breath instead of using the breath in and out to move the muscles, and you catch yourself not breathing, and you're like, how did I go from being so balanced in my breath in yoga to holding my breath through a move? And you're like, oh, there it is. So catching the difference between what your mind tells us and what your body actually needs, or your spirit is saying, is this is that line where the mastery is. And that's what we know how to do. We just have patterns that have gotten in the way of us being able to clearly feel that or know that. So whatever techniques work, whether it's slow down the time, take some deep breath, use breathing, use muscle testing, use something that says, am I in my body right now? And am I hearing clearly?
Mm-hmm.
You even start down a path.
Yeah. We have so many great comments here. I'm just going to go through some of these. So Carolyn, sharing about what you were talking about before, Denise, she said, I totally and completely agree. It is astounding to me the amount of times I have noticed people denying themselves their ability to embody joy and be playful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
She also says asking is such a big thing. And then Tracy said, I just had this conversation with my body. I thought I had internal bleeding. However, I checked in with my body and it said no. I was worried. I went with trust and I sat back, didn't go to the doctor. And the next day I remembered I ate a whole tub of beet hummus. And then
exactly.
And then Carolyn says, I have started asking either a question or an intention from my higher being every day, learning to incorporate that into my practice. And in doing so, I am realizing that I am also worthy of having these daily conversations with my higher being.
I love the idea of having a daily conversation. And what I want to encourage us to do is to have an hourly conversation, which is, hey, how are you doing? How are you doing? How are you doing? I had the left side of my body literally like shut down when I was writing the Indigo book for all sorts of esoteric reasons, right? And what I had to learn in that process was that I can't just check out and take off and go down a path. I have to actually loop back and, sorry, just a minute. I have to loop back and catch myself in, am I out of connection? How far did I get away? And so like even that hourly, like, hey, left side, do you want to come in and help me write this? And it was like, man, if you're not keeping up, I'm not, and I had to, in almost hourly, I had to check in and go, are we working in tandem right now? And I realized I thought I was, but I wasn't. So how do we move from I think I am and it's okay to I am? I know I am, and I can feel the difference. Because once we get down to that, I can feel the difference, then we know that that's where we are.
Yeah. And that I am, what you're making me think too, is I think we're at a point, it feels to me like it's just time to just say, like, I have the gifts. Like,
yeah.
It's not really about developing them anymore. It's about having them and allowing them to step forward.
Right.
And that's really where it's at. Sorry. Ludwig's making a lot of noise.
and like, what is that? Fake it till you make it, right? Which is like, this is what I am. I've got it. This is who I am. This is what I know how to do. And this is where I'm at right now. So total acceptance, total trust inside, total ability to read what's coming in, like, oh, wow, I just got a hit and I don't know where it came from. I'm going to check it out and find out whether it's something I need to follow or not. These are the most important pieces that we want to start doing. Is first, we want to know that there are old condition patterns that have been running the show, and as advanced or as ascended as we want to believe we are, or as much as we want to own our indigo, we have to know that there are conditioned responses in us and we're reactive, and that's there. And we have to look at that, because what we want to do is we want to learn how to move that observer, that constant hyper-vigilant mind, and take it a step back and take it a step back and take it a step back, so that it's in a neutral observer, which is, well, and then that just happened. And then that happened. And then that happened. And now I can see the thread between them, as opposed to, wow, I got to go deal with this. Wow, I got to go deal with this. Because we don't see the thread when we're in reaction. So we're moving the observer into trust and surrender by backing it up and saying, I'm observing me doing life, observing me doing life. And so the indigo knows how to use these tools of mastery that say, I might have my hand on my sword, but I'm not pulling it and I'm not chopping anything up right now. All I'm doing is simply assessing. And assessing is a great word. It means I'm collecting information so that I can formulate an opinion.
Yeah.
And sometimes assessing takes time. You can't do that in 30 seconds. I assess the whole situation, yep, my gut says, yep. That's one thing. The other thing is to go through, how many pieces of information did I add to this so that I really know I'm on a solid foundation?
Well, and what tools are we using to assess? Going back to what Carolyn was saying, checking in with her higher being. And Tracy says too, she's asking questions like, what does my inner being feel about this? And Carolyn says, I love the word assessing. And so that, are we, again, going back to what I was saying, is are we assessing from the mind? Are we assessing from our clear senses and our heart and our empathic nature? Like, what are we doing? And are we using both? And how does the right brain and left brain work together in order to do this? Because we have to do both. Yeah, we have to use both sides of the brain. And, I want to get into, because I know we always run out of time, but one of the other out of balance things here is a big one, which is self-judgment.
Yeah.
Self-judgment, clothing. And that is such an easy one for Indigo to get into, I think, because Indigos have had some kind of trauma, or there's always something in that drama triangle with the Indigos. And so I think that self-judgment and that self-loathing and the berating behavior we have in our minds is a big one for out of balance, especially when we're feeling like we don't know where we're going. Like, if we don't know where we're going, I know for me, like, if I don't have goals and I'm not reaching my goals, I go right into, I'm not good enough. And that's why I didn't reach the goal, rather than allowing it to be, I don't know what the goal is, and that's okay.
Right. And I wonder if, looking at that one, and you all can't see this list, but underneath self-judgment was this concept of aggressive, that we can be aggressive. And I know that my voice goes up and I get louder and meaner, especially when I had three little kids that were three kids in 5 years, and they were all in that 3 to 8 year old, it's like, is that when I go into self-judgment, I get more assertive and I get more aggressive because I'm having a entirely bashing conversation inside that I forget that I'm also passing that outside in my lens, in my constructs that I'm making, and what I'm turning into form and creating. Because again, we're energy centers, and when all of us is aligned and we put something from thought, it goes into form in front of us. So do we want to create a judgmental, aggressive, harsh environment, or do we want to create something that is patient and in discovery and full of wonder and creating something that's new and different? Because that's where we're at, is what kind of world do we want to start to create now? And if we can get out of self-judgment and thinking that we missed something, there's something wrong with this, what happened? And then also, that aggressive self-talk that turns into aggressive outs in the external world.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Does that connection make sense to you, those of you who are watching, that our internal and our external behaviors feed each other?
Mm-hmm. Well, and Tracy comments, she says, I've been working with the word righteous.
Beautiful word to take out and go righteous. Right. We think it's such a great word and it's such a harsh word, right?
Yeah. And it goes right along with the aggression, the self-judgment, and all those things,
And self-judgment is also I need to know that I'm right about that, because I felt it, I heard it, I get a sense in there, but I don't really believe it. So somebody somewhere, please tell me I'm right, and I need to be right, and I need to be right. And that is part of what we are in our humanness. We are trying to free ourselves from this social and global constraints of that's the way the world has been. Mm-hmm. And we as indigos contributed to this because we didn't know all of this information coming in. And it started a very beautifully affluent, hardworking, you take a Gen Xer or an Indigo and you get them to work on something, magic happens because we don't want to fail. We want it to be perfect, and we know what we're doing, and we're hyper vigilant, right? Yeah. And we've built an entire world over the last 20 or 30 years of this being the norm. Mm-hmm. And then now we have this, and this is the most beautiful part, is we have this conflict between the Indigo and the Gen Xer and the millennial vibration, which is your vibration is so harsh that it's hard for me to be around you. And you don't do anything because you just shut down when I'm around. And so we have this generational polarized as opposed to blending, which is when I as an Indigo soften and start to own and bring in the vibrational awareness of me being in alignment, then all of this younger generations ahead of me step in. Yeah. When I'm in my tension and my problem solving and my aggressiveness, all of those younger generations step back. And then it brings us into self-doubt and self-judgment, which is my kids don't like me, they don't want to spend any time with me. My younger coworkers are a pain in the, it's just this self-fulfilling prophecy over and over again too. So how do we go into trust, surrender, slow our system down, bring presence in, and say, I am a master and my job is done. I have destroyed and dismantled every single thing that caused fear and angst on this planet, and it is now crumbling and falling. I did that. We all did that. Well done. And so you go what do we do next?
Yeah, and that's a great segue into exactly what I was going to say is I want to make sure we talk about before we get to out of time is that we're done. Like
We're done.
Let's talk about how we can let go of feeling like we have to finish something.
Yeah. That what if the task has been done and it was energetic and we did it when we arrived? And everything we've been doing since our arrival is competing or defending ourselves about around a social or global construct that didn't want us to succeed. And we have succeeded.
Mm-hmm.
Truth has won. Truth is demolishing everything. In fact, it's one of those things where I was listening to, not going to be able to place it right now. I listen to like 4 or 5 YouTubes in the morning, right? And we start with the invisible and the highest dimensions first, and the very last to show us that the change is coming is in the physical.
Yeah.
So what we are able to say, you and I, to this beautiful group that's watching this right now, to each of you individually, is that our job is done. We have completed what we came here to do. We have dismantled those constructs. Now, we're also, as the dismantlers, not the ones to be creating new environments, because all we know how to do is take them apart. We might not have the vision, or we have a vision, but we have to entrust that someone behind us is going to come along and show us where to go, because our job has been to dismantle it.
Yeah. And isn't that the surrender piece too, the needing to control? And it's funny because Tracy says she spent so much time and energy wanting to be right. And that goes back to also wanting to be in control. And I think what's interesting is we come in, as you said, as indigos, we're these masters, and we have all of this information, and we have these clear senses that are open. And so people deny us what we see and feel and tell us, oh, that's not real, or we're crazy, we're not right, or whatever. And so then we have this drive to be right, this drive to be in control, because we felt so out of control and unseen and unheard and all these things. And so the ultimate surrender seems like I'm going to let go and trust that these other generations are going to take care of stuff. I'm going to let go and trust in my own gifts. I'm going to let go and trust in what I know, and I don't need anybody else to see me. I just need to see me and hear me. Like, that's asking us to put, and this is a theme, I'm not ready to really talk about everything that's happened the last few weeks with my grandma and everything. I promise I will when I'm ready, and what I will say is it's been a lot of a big invitation to put down all of that energy, control, anger, wanting to be right, all of these things. Like it's putting it all down. And that's really what the surrender is asking us to do, is to put it down.
Yes. Put it down. My aunt came and moved to Bend when I was going through my divorce, and just sort of like saddled up next to me and sort of said, what can I do to help? And the first thing she went after was my righteousness. And she kept telling me, and it got to the point where I was like, she said it again, which is, if you want to be right, that means you're in the make wrong business.
Oh.
And I'm like, which is, you want him to be wrong, you want her to be wrong, you want the world to be wrong so that you can be right. And I thought, oh, that is not what I want to do. What I want to do is I want to look for the light. I want to look for the divine. I want to look for the goodness. So when we really, and I love the imagery that the indigo has the sword, because you can either literally like have it in a scabbard on the side of your body, and it's just decoration, and it's sort of an honor, it's there, and you never pull it out, or you just take it off and put it down, and you no longer need to protect yourself with it. Because when we can do that, we become open to possibilities, open to opportunities. We become receptive, which is the highest feminine energy, which is things can come into me now because I'm not like pushing it away with my righteousness. And then we can be responsive, which is give me something. And I, instead of going, I'm going to react, I go into, let me hold it and find out what it wants from me. And then I'll respond and go where it needs me to go. So where we are now, whether we're 40 or 50 or 60 or 70, or you're a young one who found us who's in your 20s, how do you realize that this work is done? And our greatest gift is to model the mastery inside of us, where we stop fighting our internal battles and pushing them out onto the world around us and making the world look like a battleground.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's big stuff today.
I had no idea we were going to go into this place with it. And my whole body feels so calm, realizing that what is it really like to be in retirement from fighting this galactic battle on Earth and being able to go out and play in the physical 3D parts of this world that are so wonderful, and stop fighting. And stop hating and stop pushing away and stop controlling. And to say, of course I did. I didn't know anything else. Now I know something different. So how do I don't know whether the word is forgive or just gently nurture that part that was so aggravated all the time.
Yeah.
Peace. Because if we want to create peace in the world, we've got to start here first. And there's enough of us, and we are with these radiant towers of vibration. Let's show them what peace looks like. And let's start spreading that now, because we've dismantled everything. And now we kind of look back and go, it's going to be a beautiful environment. Everything's taken down. What do we do with it next? What do you guys got? Start. I got it ready for you. Let's go.
Yeah. Well, and it's interesting because when you think of the programs that are out there, there's really nothing in our entertainment world that shows us how to be at peace, right? As soon as the movie's done and the war is won, they go into the sequel with another war, or there's another movie with another battle, or there's certainly nothing teaching us how to be calm.
There is one movie that has been my all-time favorite movie that I go to all the time. It's Robin and Marion, and it's with Audrey Hepburn and Sean Connery. It was filmed in the 70s, maybe 80s, and it's the story of Robin and Marion like 20 years after the big, the story, right?
Oh, I love that.
Rides off to go fight in the Crusades, leaves Marion by herself. She joins a convent and becomes the sister of healing for the village, and the one who raises the crops and grows the herbs and does everything. And she's very established. And he comes riding back in town like nothing ever happened. And he's full of, we fought a good fight. And she just looks at him like, no, your energy's not welcome here anymore. And so she has to teach him how to undo the warrior in him, because all he's ever known how to do is fight. And it is a beautiful film of like that peace and that warrior and that unwinding of an old story. And if I find more, I will definitely write them and we can post them. Yeah. And if any of you know of movies that give us examples, series, documentaries, anything that gives us examples of what is it like to allow a finished product to stay, or a battle or a dismantling to stay in peace and see the beauty of it. Or maybe that's what our calling is to start sharing those.
Yeah, I love that. Well, and this conversation at the end has made me think, the Osho cards are always in my head. I can't get them out because I used to work with them so much, but there is a card about fighting. I'll post that too, because it's really
I use it in parent coaching all the time. You're having a mental battle with this imagery in your head that is not even real.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'll post that because that comes to mind too. It's like it is time to just put it all down. That's what I feel. Time to put it down. And the image I see too about the sword, it's kind of like it's time to put the sword up on the statue, and just let it be held. Like we don't
just stick it in a garden and put some vines around it and let it be of use for something else.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So as we're bringing this to a close, is there anything that any remarks that come up that we want to make sure we validate and honor those who've been watching and talking and contributing? It's been wonderful to have you here.
Yeah, absolutely. And really, I think it's just, they're saying it's so yummy and thank you for the movie. So I think I really appreciate everybody who's watching, and I'm loving that this is in the app so that we don't even have to be anyplace else. And I really appreciate everybody who's in there. And if you're not in there, you can go to BuddhistBiohacker.com, click on Become a VIP. You get so much that I don't even have time at the close to tell you.
It's a fabulous app. And then I would ask a favor, which is we need this book to get out there. We need to start spreading it around. And what I've noticed in feedback is that it's a guidebook. I've had a couple of clients call me and say, can I hire you to coach me through this thing? Because when I get up on something, my body has these reactions and I just want to know what's going on. It also is just really informative in whether you are an indigo, whether you were raised by an indigo, whether you are raising an indigo. It's just helpful to know that this approaches all of that. So by all means, get on Amazon. You can buy it as a paperback or you can get it as a Kindle download. So, I'm just asking, let's get those numbers up. And if you like it, put a review on there because every little bit helps get the word out.
Awesome. Awesome. I love you so much, Denise.
This was wonderful. Thank you. Thank you, Lisa. Thank you, everybody. This topic has been fabulous.
Oh, it's just been so good. And let's keep it going. And I am going to have a nice space with all of our Indigo Frequency shows. If you've missed any and you want to go back and watch them or comment, I will absolutely have that available very soon. And thank you, Danny, who's here joining us from YouTube. Take care, exactly. And you enjoy the last of the vibes of the strawberry full moon. And we'll see each other soon.
Yes. Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.